On last week's WCW Nitro, we had a new number one contender for the US title crowned in the shape of Matt Morgan, and Bully Ray left our champion Ethan Carter III and challenger Rey Mysterio lying motionless in the ring after a steel chair attack. There's probably going to be repercussions to all of that on this week's show. Hello and welcome to part 10 of my WCW Total Extreme Wrestling playthrough. I'm Kev and we're kicking things straight off today with a tag team match. It's the Nexus practicing teaming together against Evan Bourne and Ricochet, and Evan Bourne and Ricochet just can't get any luck at the moment. They're eating defeats left, right and centre. Barrett and Ryback pick up the win with Wade Barrett defeating Ricochet by pinfall. Evan Bourne, the weak link, struggling to keep up with everybody else. We might have a bit of a problem with Evan Bourne. But we get C's for Ryback and Wade Barrett, D's for the other two. It starts the show off strongly. Ryback was off his game and still got a C, which I can live with that. And we get a C for the segment overall. A strong start to the show. Remember, the reason they're practicing tagging together, although they're part of the Nexus together and they hang out together a lot anyway, at Halloween Havoc, our next pay-per-view in 3 weeks' time, we've got the Nexus versus the newly formed team of Bobby Lashley and Jay Lethal. So they need to get some tag team practice in. And we're going to see the other team practicing teaming together later on Nitro this evening as well. And our first angle of the night is the introduction of our new Nitro General Manager. Because if you recall from the last episode, anytime now we're going to be launching our second show, WCW Thunder. As soon as the networks will let us have it, Thunder will begin. I've still not decided if it's a brand split situation, a B-show situation. I'm still pondering. But in the meantime, we've appointed a General Manager for Nitro anyway. And it's only Kevin Nash. We get a C+ on the segment. It's Kevin Nash debuting in WCW. He's a new signing. I expected better than a C+, to be honest. Oh, and Kevin Nash, aged 1,000, is getting better at his gimmick. Good work, Kev. Shh. And then Bully Ray continues his dominance of the lower mid-card here on Nitro by just decimating Loki in less than 5 minutes. He gets a C for the match. Loki gets a D and we get a D+ on the segment. This whole Bully Ray dominance thing is not going the way I hoped it would, because I was expecting this to be a really, really hot storyline, and it doesn't seem that it is. But we do pick up another win for Bully Ray to keep his momentum going forward. Again, he's saying nothing. He's not explaining his actions last week. He's being unusually quiet for Bully Ray. And then we have Damien Sandow replying to MVP from last week. MVP on the last episode cut a little bit of a backstage promo on Sandow, and this is Sandow's response. Again, it's can't fit them on the show, so we'll have them do a little backstage interview thing. But every time we do it, it advances the storyline. It's our slow burn feud, and they're going to be ready for another pay-per-view match in a couple of weeks' time. And then that'll probably be the blow-off to the feud, and we'll send them both off their separate ways. And then we have a number one contenders for the women's title match. It's AJ Lee versus Courtney Rush. And I've remembered when I was looking through my notes that Courtney Rush is a member of the Nexus in this universe, so she needs to be getting a little bit more involved in that storyline as well. But in the meantime, she's just defeated AJ Lee and is now the number one contender for Mia Yim's women's title. A D+ for AJ, a D- for Courtney Rush. We get a D overall. It's a lot better than the women's match we had last week between Santana Garrett and Viper, which just got E's. I think these are two of our better, more over women's wrestlers, and Rush is now going to be number one contender for the women's title and will come up against Mia Yim in the near future. Talking of women's wrestling, Kevin Nash walks out on stage. Look, remember me, I'm the new general manager. I'm not reforming the NWO, don't worry. What I have done is I've been watching this Mae Young Classic thing on the WWE network, and there's a couple of people who are in that who were available to sign, who I hadn't heard of before, but now I have, so I've signed him. He's almost speaking as if he's me, and he's presenting Toni Storm and Tessa Blanchard, who are new signings for the women's division to go in with all the other Mae Young Classic folk that are already knocking around in our women's division. Basically, our women's division is like a little mini version of the Mae Young Classic going on, with a couple of exceptions. But Toni Storm and Tessa Blanchard are here, both debut, and we get a C+ on the segment, and they're going to be wanting to get themselves involved in the title mix sooner rather than later. And the Motor City Machine Guns are back. They had a week off last week. This time they're facing up against The Underdogs, our newly formed tag team. If you remember, before the last pay-per-view, we were putting Mark Sherman and Tim Donst out almost every week because they're supposed to be the next big things. So we were putting them out every week and letting them win. I've decided instead of doing that, I've put them together as a tag team. They're going to be a tag team over on Thunder, whether it's a B show or a brand split thing. But in the meantime, we'll give them a debut as a team on Nitro. Obviously, they've lost to the Motor City Machine Guns because the Motor City Machine Guns have very recently been our tag champions. So a newly formed pair of jobbers isn't going to beat them. And it is Shelley getting the pin over Donst in 9 minutes. C minuses for both Sabin and Shelley. E pluses for Sherman and Donst. But there we go. We start our Sherman and Donst storyline, and the game gave them the tag team name, the Underdogs. It's got a random name generator, and that one seems quite appropriate as they're both massive jobbers. We get a D plus for the segment, and at least we've got another new tag team, a new face tag team as well, because we've been a bit light on them. Shelton Benjamin. This is, whoa, what do you mean? This is just a way to get Shelton Benjamin and Mia Yim on screen together so that she gets some of the main event rub and he gets to be on the show so he doesn't moan. It's nothing to do with that at all. This is storyline. Shelton Benjamin asking Mia Yim what on earth she had to do to get a title opportunity because he is lost in mid-card / tag team limbo and he's better than that. Possibly early stages of a tiny hint at a Shelton Benjamin heel turn. But he's starting to feel a little bit frustrated at his place on the card, which reflects his real life views because he's not very happy with his place on the card, and we need to get some kind of push going for Shelton Benjamin. But he has a little chat with Mia Yim, who obviously joined WCW and almost immediately became the women's champion, the top main event level prize a woman can win. So he wants to follow her lead, probably not with winning the women's title though. We get a C minus for the segment, which is good for Mia Yim. Not great for Shelton Benjamin, but what can you do? And just a normal old TV match that has no storyline attached to it. We have John Morrison versus Brodus Clay. Morrison getting the win in 7 minutes. He gets a C minus. Clay gets a D. It's a C minus on the match. But importantly, Adam Cole's not done with John Morrison yet. He comes out, attacks him post-match and just leaves him battered. We get a C minus. It actually loses some heat on this segment. So I think the John Morrison Adam Cole feud might be coming to an end. But there might just be one more match in them. Pete Dunne versus Alex Riley. Alex Riley has been whining that he's not had any opportunity. In fact, he's been with us since the start and hadn't made his debut yet. So he makes his debut in this match and just eats a defeat from Pete Dunne. This was, full disclosure, going to be Tyler Bate versus Trent Seven. But Tyler Bate, I've had to give a couple of weeks off because he's in a grumpy. A, because he was accused of injuring someone. I can't even remember who it was. B, because he lost the TV title. And C, because I signed Tony Storm, who's apparently his ex. So he's in a proper grumpy. So I've given him a little bit of time off to think about what he's done. And that meant that Seven's taken out of the feud that we had going on. So now it's going to be Dunne versus Riley. Dunne gets the win, and Alex Riley hopefully won't whine about not being on telly, because when he is, he's going to lose to Pete Dunne every single time until he stops whining or leaves, because we're paying him a contract, and I'd quite like to not do that. So I want to upset Alex Riley so much that he just walks out on us. That's the plan. We've got a new recruit to the Dangerous Alliance. It's Paul Heyman and the minor members of the Dangerous Alliance, Jack Swagger and Ted DiBiase Jr. Pete Dunne and Ethan Carter don't need to get involved in this kind of nonsense, but they're announcing their new recruit. All this women's division stuff that we're talking about tonight, it's time the Dangerous Alliance had a women's wrestler. We were impressed with what she did last week. Welcome to the Dangerous Alliance, Viper. And she's now in the Dangerous Alliance. We get a B plus on the segment, and we can start giving her a little bit of a push. Because we're a little bit light on heels in our women's division. It's very face heavy, especially with the two new signings. And with AJ in there as well, and a face champion. We've only really got the beautiful people who've had their feud with Mia Yim and lost it. And Courtney Rush, who's starting her feud with Mia Yim now. And then we don't really have any other heels apart from Viper. So we need to give her a little bit of a push. Because we saw last week she's only getting E pluses on her matches. So hopefully by putting her in the Dangerous Alliance, she can spend a lot of time with Paul Heyman. And just generally get the rub from the rest of them. B plus on the segment. Very positive stuff. And then promised you this at the start of the episode. Bobby Lashley and Jay Lethal having a little bit of practice tagging together, taking on the British Invasion. Jay Lethal defeats Doug Williams by pin after 9 minutes. Lashley is head and shoulders above everybody else, as you'd expect, getting a C+. I mean, C- to C+ isn't head and shoulders. Lethal's going in with a C-, and then a D+ and a D for the British Invasion, who are becoming, similar to Ricochet and Bourne, a bit of a jobber tag team, which I think they're better than, so we might need to find... This is why I'm possibly leaning towards the idea of brand split rather than B-show for Thunder, because we're getting quite a bloated roster, and some teams, some individuals are just taking defeat after defeat after defeat, and it might be nice to just mix things up a little bit. We get a C on the match. And our main event of the evening is another tag team match. And Ethan Carter III and Cody Rhodes have been buddying it up backstage. I'm constantly getting messages about how well they're getting on. They're in rival factions at the moment. Cody Rhodes leading Bullet Club, Ethan Carter being the highlight of the Dangerous Alliance. But we need to get them away working together. And we might even get them in the same faction at some point. I don't know which way we'd move it, or make them a tag team, or we'll figure something out. But either way, this gives us our 2 champions in the shape of Carter and Rhodes against our 2 current #1 contenders, Rey Mysterio and Matt Morgan. We get a B- on the match. Let me just read. I put some parameters in, but I don't know what it's come out with. So Rey Mysterio and Matt Morgan defeated Ethan Carter III and Cody Rhodes when Ethan Carter III was counted out while fighting Rey Mysterio. That's not what was supposed to happen at all. During the match, we had Bully Ray run in and attack Rey Mysterio. That's what's supposed to happen. It's a disqualification win, was what it was supposed to be. We get 15 minutes into the match, and then Bully Ray just marches down again, same as last week, chair in hands, and absolutely savages Rey Mysterio, leaves him lying in the ring and walks off. This time doesn't touch Ethan Carter III. Paul Heyman's just as confused as he was last week. Bully Ray, hot segment, although apparently we're losing heat on the segment, but we did advance our US title storyline. Matt Morgan's the weak link, getting a D+ to everyone else's C's. We get C+ for Carter and Mysterio and a C for Rhodes, with Paul Heyman doing well at ringside. The important thing is we've actually managed to do a match where we get a B- rating for the match, despite nobody being up to a B in ring. So we're doing something right with the booking there. A strong main event to end the show, and the show gets a B-. We increase our popularity in 28 regions, and there's no criticism at all. We included more ladies, which was a criticism of last week. We didn't include Justin Gabriel at all, which was another criticism of last week, and things are positive and moving forward again. As always, let me know down in the comments what you think of the booking, where you'd be taking these storylines from here, what change you'd make to what I'd be doing. If you've enjoyed it, please pop a like on there for me, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and thank you very much for watching.